Snyder, they just announced that Malik Williams is joining on a two-way contract. What have you seen from him in College Park? What can you expect from him just to provide depth? I think you guys need a lot of depth on that.
Well, it's always good when someone that's been invested in your program gets an opportunity to get called up, and particularly when he's put a lot of work and a lot of time in, and it's been effective with College Park. Ability to shoot the ball, shoot it from three. It's a good rebounder, and important for us to have some depth with everything we're going through.
Typically, when you score 108, 150 points, and you do a lot of things well on the offensive end, with such a quick turnaround, what are you looking to see as the major adjustments for this game?
Yeah, and I think I spoke to this a little bit after the game, that I didn't think that there were a lot of things that we needed to do better. That's how you get to that number. There's going to be some points because there's so many possessions. Both teams are running, but when you watch the film, it's less about the number of points you gave up. You may give up less because teams aren't making as many shots, but when they're running out in transition and we don't have an awareness and laying the ball in after makes, when we're not getting the right rotations, when we're getting beat middle, off closeouts, when our pickup points are too far back, there's a lot of things we need to do better.
Quinn, what stands out to you about the second game of these two-game sets since the league put these into play?
Yeah, I think they're unique in that you have, particularly when there's a day between games, there's less opportunity when it's a back-to-back, to kind of dig into the game. We will as a coaching staff, but then there's a limitation how much you can give the players just as far as retention goes and execution. I think with the additional day, I won't say it's like a playoff series because there's more time in between, so you're still conscious of being fresh, because no matter what you do, if you're not fresh, it's less effective. But there are certain things, as I mentioned, from a defensive standpoint, whether it's the opportunity to make some adjustments, which obviously we will from a tactical standpoint, but I didn't think that was, I know that wasn't where we were the other night. It was an execution of what we're doing. So hopefully, having seen the film, having experienced the result, that obviously is a tough one, you get a chance to see your team respond.
Coach, just in a general sense, that last game when it was 300 points scored, do you think that's a reflection of the modern game where everyone can sort of shoot, score, and run? Or do you think it's a little bit too easy to score and maybe there could be a bit of a tweaking of some rules to make it?
I don't think you can generalize about one game. I think all the things you're saying are true. Players are more skilled. I think the biggest thing, when you get two teams that play with a lot of pace, you're going to have more possessions. There's going to be more points. But there's also games, that are lower scoring games. So whatever those trends are, I think we saw that a couple of years ago, especially when there were more points. People were, didn't like the fact that teams were taking a lot of threes. Where they felt like the game was changing. The game's dynamic. You see, a few of my colleagues have had things to say about the way the game has been called from a physicality standpoint. So my point is that not any judgment about officiating or playing, that the game is dynamic. And I think within that, you're going to find certain matchups that create more of that. You're going to have low-scoring games against certain teams. You're going to have high-scoring games. But obviously, 300 points is, that's an anomaly, no matter what era you're in.
Considering who's back with your team now, talk about your rotations. Anything different? Is it allowed you to do anything different than when we watching something?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at the injury list and see who's playing and know that that's going to be reflected in a lot of situations. And I think when you have players that are in and out of the lineup, the reflections, the rotations will reflect that. You know, as far as who's starting the game is an obvious one, who's finishing, what your substitutions look like, looking at who they're playing, you know, end of the first quarter, do we feel like we match up with that? We did the other night, but do we now? So everything's a little bit different because of what you're describing.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay.